Management, or parent company, iHeartMedia Incorporated.
Welcome to the Bartow Ford Real Animals Radio Show, your weekly voyage into Florida fishing. Presented by Hubbard's Marina, hosted by Captain Mike Anderson and Captain Dylan Hubbard.
Good morning, guys. News Radio WFLA. Captain Dylan Hubbard here this morning on the Real Animals Saturday morning radio show. I've got Captain Jerry Wrathy in studio with me this morning. How you doing, Jerry?
Good. How about yourself?
Just another day in paradise. And we've got Captain Rob behind the glass over there, the man with the plan. How you doing this morning, Rob?
It's kind of chilly this morning, huh?
I know.
I can only imagine what it's like out on the water.
I don't want to know. It's a little windy and rough this morning.
It would be bumpy.
Yeah.
You ever be out there on the boat in the morning when it's like maybe 60, 50 degrees and you got a lot of blankets on you or something?
No, that's what a wheelhouse is for.
Oh, okay.
Keeps you nice and toasty in there.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't want to be throwing a cast net in the morning like this. I don't know how them boys do it. Fishing over at the Skyway at 58, 65 in the morning. It's a little too chilly for me. I guess that's what good rain gear's for.
That's what rain gear's for.
Nope, we are tucked away in wheelhouses on our vessels, thankfully. But it is chilly and windy. It looks like this weather is finally going to start breaking here today and start calming down tomorrow. Really going to get good again there Monday, Tuesday, and into this week. Got a nice little reprieve from the weather this week before it picks back up a little bit there Thursday briefly. But overall, this weather this week looks a lot better than we've seen this weekend.
Well, that's for sure.
That was quite the cold front that we had. And this time of year it becomes so important to plan your trips around those fronts. I mean, especially near shore and offshore, we see such a trend with those fronts. The fishing's really good ahead of the front, and then behind the front, you got to wait for that water to calm back down before you can get out there. But the deeper you fish, the quicker you can get back out there, whereas that shallow water stays stirred up, and you got to wait a little bit longer for that water to not only calm down but clear up, right?
It stays milky for quite a couple of days after the blow.
Yeah.
And the fish come up white if you're fishing shallow.
Yeah, they come up white, all sanded up, but they get grouped up on that bigger structure, and once that water does calm down and clear up, they tend to turn on, right?
They turn on good.
Yeah.
They bite real well.
So for those of you guys who don't know Captain Jerry Rathy, the guest in studio this morning, you are a long-time, very experienced offshore fisherman that specializes in kind of deep water stuff, right?
Deep dropping's my specialty. I love it.
Deep drop fishing. So big grouper, those unique snapper species. What's a memorable catch to you? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, Warsaws.
Warsaws, big Warsaws. What's your big Warsaw?
Mine personally, 454 pounds. When I was 10 years old.
Oh, man, that is awesome. So you haven't beat that fish from 10 years old, huh?
Yes, I have not.
So deep dropping to a lot of people is kind of a newer thing. You've been doing it for a long time, and back when you were 10 years old, you were already deep dropping. Where were you fishing out of?
Out of Cortez. My father was a commercial fisherman, so I fished with him a lot from his time I was 10 years old.
That's crazy. So that deep water fishing's been around a long time.
It's been around longer than people think it has.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That's interesting to me for sure. So you started commercial fishing through your kind of tenure, and then you've moved into charter fishing a little bit now.
Yeah.
So you've seen a little bit of every side of the fishery offshore.
I've been on all sides of it.
There you go.
From commercial fishing to charter fishing. I got my license in 1977, November 1977.
Wow. So a little bit of salty experience under your belt.
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
That's awesome, man. So this morning we're going to be talking a lot about that nearshore and offshore fishing, but we're here to answer your questions and talk inshore too. So if you want to join the conversation, you can always give us a shout at 1-800-969-9352. But I remember chatting with you, Captain Jerry. You said you had some questions that you wanted to chat about today.
concerning gag groupers and closures and what they're going to do for us.
Yeah. So I was at the Perdido Key this past week in Alabama at a at a Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council, and they talked a lot about gag grouper. And one thing that's really, really cool, I've talked about this in past shows, is the state of Florida has such strong representation at the council, and our FWC state representative, Martha Gaez, is just absolutely invaluable asset to the state of Florida recreational and for hire and all our anglers. And she fought tooth and nail and would not take no for an answer, and got a motion passed to basically refute the current kind of outcome or outlook of the stock assessment by getting state of Florida state reef fish survey information plugged in there too. So luckily the track we were on with gag grouper has been kind of set back a little bit, because now they're going to reevaluate that assessment through the film of the state reef fish survey as well. So not only the federal MREP data, but now the state reef fish survey data. But long story short, the outlook is not great on gag grouper, and we talked about that in past shows. But there was discussion of closing the fishery, but again, Martha Gaez and another state of Florida representative who's new to the council, Bob Gill, they fought really hard this past week and just would not let the issue slip on the fact that they did not want to see the fishery closed. Now, you might be sitting at home thinking, well, if the fishery's in poor shape, why wouldn't they want to close it? Well, as we discussed prior to the show, Captain Jerry and I were chatting, you don't want to close a fishery completely, because once you close a fishery completely, you lose one of the pillars of fishery science. There's fishery independent collection and fisheries independent monitoring, and then there's fisheries dependent monitoring. And when you close a fishery, that means there's no fisheries dependent monitoring.
No data.
Yeah, and without that pillar, which is one of the main ones for a lot of these deep water species, you lose age and growth composition data, you lose a lot of the catch per unit effort data, a lot of the effort that they get, or information data that they collect from fishermen. And without that data and information, they can't keep their thumb on the pulse of the fishery, and they can't track where that population is going. So when you close a fishery, like, for example, Goliath grouper, it's very, very difficult to get them reopened. So the big push this past week by a lot of state of Florida representatives at the council was, yes, gag grouper might be having some issues, and the fishery might be in a little bit of a downturn and negative state, but don't close the fishery. We need to do everything we can to prevent an all-out fisheries closure. Now, if we need to restrict them, if we need to go to more restrictive seasons or bag limits, fine, but don't close the fishery. So to answer your question, yes, there was discussions of gag grouper issues and potential closures. But I know we talked about this on a couple shows ago, and Captain Justin Moore called in and really, for the same reasons, was saying how he doesn't want to see the fisheries closed. And it was really interesting to see that same information come out at the council meeting and really be vetted out. So hopefully we won't see that closure.
Yeah, that would hurt us pretty good.
Yeah. And if we need to cut them back, that is what it is. I mean, I think a lot of fisheries are cyclical, and being as experienced as you are, I'm sure you've seen that over the years, how you can all of a sudden see a downturn in a fishery, and without much change, and all of a sudden you see the fishery come back, right?
That's a fact. They done a real good job on snapper, originally American red snapper, so now they just got to do it with the gags, because it's not what it used to be.
Yep, and red snapper, I think, are the greatest conservation fisheries management success stories that there is. I mean, we've seen red snapper go from, in my lifetime, when I was younger, not really seeing many red snapper, to now they're seemingly everywhere. And we've definitely seen a huge uptick in those red snapper from the strict management of that fishery. So hopefully we'll see those gag grouper come back well too. And we saw that with red grouper too. I mean, this year red grouper closed, which a lot of people were frustrated about, but that closure was a product of management trying to restrict catch levels when red grouper were down. And now red grouper's rebounding, that cyclical nature we were just talking about, how it was kind of coming in waves and it went on a downturn. Now it's on an upswing. We're seeing a lot more red grouper, a lot bigger average size.
That's what I was going to say, a lot bigger average size.
Yeah.
Real nice fish.
And that's what ultimately closed the fishery. I mean, they went from a 5-pound average on red grouper, and they changed the average size to 7 pounds. And if you're loading a truck with 100 pounds of weights, if you're used to loading that truck with 5-pound fish, and then all of a sudden there's 7-pound fish, you load that truck a lot faster. And that's why that season closed early this year. And at this past week's council meeting, they actually passed a red grouper catch level increased and finalized it. And hopefully the National Marine Fisheries Service will get that implemented in time, and we'll see that catch increase next year go into effect, which would, in conjunction with Amendment 53 that passed a couple meetings ago, which moves some of that quota from commercial to recreational. So you have an increased recreational quota and you have an increased catch level fishery-wide. Between those two changes, hopefully we'll see a longer red grouper season, if not a full 12 months. But
that
time
would
will tell.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be great. And we've seen, like you said, a healthier population of bigger fish. I mean, we're seeing some big red grouper out there now.
We've had to throw back some really nice ones lately, some fine ones.
Yeah, it hurts. But as we discussed earlier, too, I mean, it's important to make sure you're taking care of those fish so you can catch them when they're open again next year. They reopen January 1st. So make sure you have that venting tool or descending device on standby. And even if you're really good at venting fish, some of those big ones require descending sometimes just because they take so long to get up. And the longer it takes for a fish to come to the surface, the more it fights. And the more time it spends at the surface unhooking and taking photos, the greater the chance that it has that barotrauma issue where it's going to require a descending device, right?
Yep, they won't go down. Some of them will not go.
Yeah, and so putting them on a descending device and a 2, 3, 4, 5-pound weight, sending them back down to bottom, they'll survive and they'll go back down and recompress to live another day and be caught when they're open, right?
That's a fact. I hope so. You were telling me about that Kitty Mitchell. That was amazing story there.
Yeah, it really truly was. That Kitty Mitchell that was caught in 400 and plus foot of water. I think it was like 480 caught, and then used a descending device to send it back down to bottom, tagged fish. It was caught a few months later in 800 foot of water, healthy. And that's proof. In 400 foot of water, if a descending device works, it works well. In less than 400 foot of water, too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But we're going to talk more on the other side. Hopefully we'll hear from you. Give us a shout at 1-800-969-9352. We'll be right back.
Get us one of those devices, no doubt.
Yeah, the Sequelizer is the most commonly referred to descending device, but there's a lot of them out there on the market. And some people, I mean, you can use a descending device like a milk crate. Some people will put a milk crate and you can zip tie dive weights to that leading edge of the milk crate and put a rope on the bottom of it and just throw the fish in the water and then lower that milk crate over it and send it down. You can use inverse hooks, but the Sequelizer is the easiest because you can set it at predetermined depths. And like say you're fishing 100 foot of water, you only have to send that fish down about a third of the way. So you only have to send them.
How far to send them down?
Yeah. So if you're fishing 300 foot, you only have to send them down 100 foot. Or in your case, if you're fishing 1,000 foot, you only have to send them down like 300 foot.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier with the Sequelizer because you can set predetermined depth on the device. So that way you don't have to send them all the way down to bottom. In your case, that'd be a while.
Yeah. Takes a while to get them up too.
Yeah, exactly. Retrieve that way. But a lot of people will put it on like a kite fishing rod with like the dendo butt, so you can put it in a rod holder and just drop it off the back and then let it go to bottom on your presets on your electric, and then just auto retrieve. So it makes it easy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. You would never think that you could return a fish fishing in 400, 500 foot of water.
Well, I have seen red snapper go down in 300 feet. You know, when you drop them, they go straight down. And I have seen them where somebody has caught them before, and their guts were, it was like somebody tried to gut them.
Yeah.
And it healed up. I mean, they're tough fish.
Yeah,
You know,
they
say
really are.
Some of them won't live, but they do live.
Yeah.
You see them where sharks have bit them off, and they grow the chunk back, and
Yeah.
it's tough fish.
Yep. I think there's certain species that have more of a chance to survive, where there's other species that are more likely to have issues, like hogfish, for example, are very delicate. Red grouper sometimes can be delicate, whereas like a red snapper seems to be very hardy.
Yeah, well, you catch a few fish now and again that aren't hooked bad. You bend them and put them up, they're dead. It's like they had a heart attack, or they don't come back.
Yeah, yeah, and
You sit there and you look at it and wonder why he wasn't hooked bad. Mm-hmm. And you put them in the water and they're upside down. They don't even move the gills no more.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's just like they had a heart attack and died.
Huh.
And I don't know what that's all about. But I mean,
You've only seen that out super deep?
no.
Huh.
I saw some this past trip.
That's crazy. I know I've seen that before in the thermocline. When you get a really bad thermocline, when you reel up and your 6-ounce weight is cold to the touch.
Yeah.
I've seen that before, where you pull them up out of that thermocline to 90-degree surface temps, and then all of a sudden they like go into cold shock. But it seems like a lot of times, once they get back into the water, they'll kind of kick out to health after 10, 15 seconds. But yeah, they come up in shock.
Talk to people too about summertime. Snapper don't go down as much as wintertime. And that's the thermocline. Mm-hmm. That's the heat.
That's the heat and dissolved oxygen. So colder water holds more dissolved oxygen, as you know. So in the summertime, the issue of barotrauma is even more exponential because they don't have as much oxygen in the water.
Yeah, that's what I tell a lot of the passengers when they're fishing, when they start trying to call the fish, better take what you got, because I will pull off those.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hubbard.
News Radio 970. We got the Bartow Ford Real Animals radio show. Glad you're listening with us this morning and joined us for our radio show. Unfortunately, Captain Mike is not with us this morning. Him and his better half, Beth, are down there in the Bahamas celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, big shout out to them as they enjoy their vacation. So you guys are stuck with me, Captain Dylan Hubbard from Hubbard's Marina. We got Captain Jerry Wrathy in the studio this morning with me, and we're talking fishing. And if you want to join the conversation, you can give us a shout at 1-800-969-9352. But we were chatting about those deep water fish. We talked a little bit about gag grouper and some descending device issues. It's definitely one of those things you got to take care of those fish and return them right. There's actually a program going on right now called Return 'em Right, and the website is returnemright.org. And you can actually go to that website and sign up. If you're a charter captain or party boat captain, you can go to the website, sign up, and actually take the course now. They're kind of beta testing it with captains, and then they're going to open it up to the general public sometime this spring. And even if you're not a captain, you can still go to the website now and sign up. And once you take the course, which is very, very simple, just a few videos and just basically goes over best practices and handling and how to use a descending device and some information about it, they'll actually send you free descending device tackle and all the setups that you need. So you can actually get that stuff we're talking about right now absolutely free through returnemright.org. So it's a really cool program, and that's all brought to you by the NERDA funds from the BP oil spill. There's $30 million the council set aside, and they're using that money for education and outreach and providing these barotrauma mitigation devices like venting tools, descending devices, and the education on how to use all that stuff to anglers in the Gulf. So
and that's definitely very important.
Yeah, hugely important.
Especially to our fishery.
Yeah, and that was one of the big discussions, again, this past week at the council meeting was discards and discard mortality. And you have some sectors that operate in certain ways, like commercial fishermen through the IFQ system. The goal is full retention. They go out with a quota, and they don't have discards because they purposefully will lease fish like red snapper. You're going out on a red grouper trip, but they'll lease some red snappers, so that way if they do encounter red snapper, they can keep them instead of trying to throw them back and have that discarded fish, because they're trying to prevent discards and lower discard mortality in their fishery. And then you have fisheries like charter captains. We were talking on break how during red snapper season, we'll warn guests like, hey, keep your red snapper. If you start trying to throw back fish because you're waiting on that big one, you could go home without a limit because we're not there to cull fish and hunt for the biggest one.
That's for sure. I will pull off of them. I do not like to see them float away, even though we vent them. If they start floating away, it's time for me to pull off.
Yeah, and through expertise like yourself, the many years and decades that you have doing this, you know how to try to avoid those fish, at least to the best of your ability.
That's it.
Sometimes it's hard, but if you can avoid those red snapper, you go out and you catch your red snapper, and once everybody's had a chance to, then you pull off of them and go target something else. And that's how we lower discard mortality and discard rates in the charter for hire industry.
That's basically the only way, too. I mean, we catch gags and scamps and stuff where we catch a snapper, and once that's done, you're not going to – it just don't happen.
Yeah.
We moved on to something else, or you're not going to catch the scamps and stuff as much as you do when you're snapper fishing. If you're trying to catch the gags and we catch the snappers, not going to let them float away.
Yep, we're going to keep moving and stay away from those fish that you've already had a chance to catch. So that's why it's so important to make sure when you're out there you're not high grading. That's the most frustrating thing for me is you get someone on one of these multi-day trips, so you're allowed a 2-day bag limit, and you're allowed 4 red snapper, 2 per person per day, and you'll get a guy that'll catch 3, and then he catches a 4th, and he's like, oh, no, I'm waiting for a bigger one. I was like, well, you're not going to get it because we're going to move off these fish.
That's what happens, and they try to do it, and once I start seeing them float away, I'm going to move. I don't like to see them float away.
And that's the goal. And so high grading is definitely one of those issues that increases discards and discard mortality. And that was one of the big discussions this past week at the council meeting, was trying to lower those discards. And some people were saying, well, other sectors through high grading, trying to go for that trophy fish, are increasing discards. So that's one thing they're battling for sure. So keep that in mind. Take care of your fish. Don't forget to return them right. Give us a call. Join the conversation. 1-800-969-9352. We'll be right back. We started talking. I forgot to look at the time. That's why Captain Rob's behind the glass in charge.
All right.
You're talking too much. Here's music.
Yeah, what was the name of that descending device?
The descending device that I use is called Sequelizer.
Sequelizer?
Yep, and then the website is returnemright.org. And you can get a free one through that website, which I would recommend, but they're not too expensive. Your Sequelizer would be more expensive because you're going to need one of the deeper water ones, because they have a couple different models. They have the models that are like, you can set them at 40, 60, 80 foot, and then there's one that you can set at like 80, 100, 120, and then there's another level up. So the deeper you go, the more expensive they are, just because they have to withstand more pressure. But it's pretty cool how you can set the device to release at certain depths.
That's neat. Mm-hmm. I hate seeing 20-pound fish float away. It just, you know,
heartbreaking.
you can vent them, squeeze all the air out of him, and if he's really tired, he's not going down. He's going to sit there on top. Just the embolism or whatever keeps him floating high.
Yep. So there's three main things that influence the barotrauma. It's this. What I've always thought was if you reeled them up slower, they'd have a better chance of returning to bottom, which is not true. It's not like a diver. How if you come up slowly, you'll be okay, because you can't get the fish up that slowly.
Right.
So you got to reel them up as fast as you can. So the shorter amount of time it takes you to reel them in, the shorter amount of time at the surface, and then the quicker you can get them back in the water. So, and then obviously making sure you're not ripping the gill plates out when you're dehooking them. So keep getting them up fast, getting them unhooked fast, unhooked efficiently without hurting them, and then getting them back in the water quickly. So sometimes, like how you were saying, those bigger red snapper and stuff, if it didn't take you 2 minutes to reel it up, if you got it up fast, a lot of times you can unhook it quickly, get it right back in the water, and it'll swim down fine, even if you're fishing deep. But when you reel them up and you want to take 1 million Instagram photos with it, that's when it doesn't want to get back in the water.
Yeah. Well, normally if we're throwing it back, it's not getting a picture.
Yeah.
It has to be really, really large. It goes back as fast as we can put it back in the water.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many bad reviews we've gotten about that. I wanted to take a photo with the fish, and the captain threw it back. It's like, a fish wasn't in season.
Yeah.
You can take 1 million photos with it, but it's not going to live if we don't get it back in the water quick.
That's for sure.
Let's see here. Mike Mahoney. Mike Mahoney says, it sounds great up here in Tallahassee prison system.
Oh, boy. What's he doing, hunting?
Yeah, probably. He's traveling somewhere with firearms.
Oh.
It's a factor. Yep. Van Hubbard is talking about the shrimp bycatch mortality and how they eliminated that red snapper bycatch in the shrimp fleet and how much it helped.
I'm going to tell you something else. The lane snapper population has come back, and that's due to the same thing. Mm-hmm. Because when I used to long mine commercial fish, I used to get bait from the guys down at Key West and trade them beer for all their bycatch for bait. Mm-hmm. 90% were baby lane snapper.
Wow. From the shrimpers?
Yes.
Wow.
So now with the devices to let the fish out, that's part of why we have the lane snapper population that we have now.
Interesting. I see them a lot as a bycatch in trap fisheries too. Mm-hmm. Pinfish traps and stuff like that. A lot of lane snapper bycatch in that too. Yeah. And they've done such a good job regulating the opening sizes and all that to the trap fisheries that I think it's helped a lot too.
Lane snapper's a good eating fish.
Very good eating fish. Easy to catch too.
Yeah. Now, what was you saying about what kind of trawl was that guy using for the winchman?
Otter trawl.
And what is that?
So an otter trawl is similar to a shrimp trawl, but it's a very small one. It's like it's similar to a very long tube sock. And he's an Irish guy that entered the Gulf fishery, and he catches like soapfish in deep water and sells them overseas. But all of a sudden started encountering these Wenchman snapper, which is part of that mid-water snapper complex, and started destroying them.
Where's he at? Louisiana, Texas?
He's out of that coast in the northern Gulf, like Alabama, Mississippi coast somewhere, I forget. But he showed up to the council meeting and gave public comment. And he's literally landing 5% of the total Gulf allowable catch in a trip.
That ain't good for us.
No. I mean, that means that midwater snapper complex is going to keep closing.
Yeah.
But they did pass a motion to reevaluate the ACLs of those non-assessed species. So a lot of those species like midwater snapper complex, Cubera snapper that don't have stock assessments, they have these ACLs because they just took a period of 10 years and took the average landing and then used the ABC ACL control rule, which is some very algorithm heavy way of, I think this is us.
Computer.
Yeah, and they come up with these numbers. And and they're going to reevaluate those, which will be good. News Radio 970, Bartow Ford Real Animals Radio Show. Glad you're back with us. Getting back into fishing here. We do have a caller this morning. If you want to call us, you can join the conversation at 1-800-969-9352. But we've got Ron from Ron's Tackle Box on the line. How you doing this morning, Ron?
Doing great. Hey, weather out here is pretty nice this morning.
I imagine it's chilly over there in Lakeland. Don't lie to us.
Yeah, no, it's nice. Beautiful day so far. The wind died down overnight. It's really nice right now, but I think it's going to get a little worse later. But good time to get out and do a little speck fishing.
Oh,
Specks
yeah.
have been great this week. Really good. About all the surrounding lakes are really just turned on. It's early in the season, but they're doing well.
And
Mainly
as it gets colder, they pick up, right?
Yes. Colder the better. It really gets, because they come in closer to the shoreline then. Spawn.
Makes them easier
nice
to
bass
find.
this week. Wednesday, I seen a nice 11-pound bass out of Lake Alfred.
Nice.
And that was a real nice fish, and kind of surprising because the weather was kind of funny, but real nice fish, and they put it back.
You know what it was caught on?
They took it back away. Booyah Royalty Shad. It's a lipless crankbait.
That's your favorite one, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
There
You know,
you
the
go.
guy bought one that morning, and he come back, he couldn't believe it.
You talked him into the right bait, huh?
Talked him into it. I mean, there's people that buy them too and don't do any good. You have to have confidence in what you're doing, I believe, no matter what it is.
I think it
You
comes
have a
down.
go-to bait, that's it, you know.
Yeah, you have to have confidence, and those artificial lures so often are a lot of times only as good as the person working them, you know?
That's right.
Absolutely, right. If you have confidence in something, my go-to baits, I'm from northern Indiana originally, moved down here in the 70s, and a jitterbug, killer bait, and an inline Mep spinner bait. That's my favorite baits.
Steady
I catch
retrieve.
fish all day long on them baits.
Very cool.
Some other people use them and don't do any good. So it's all about, you know, what I always tell people, go to what you catch fish on. Whatever you do good with, that's what you want to use.
And what would you suggest as far as trying to find that big bass right now? Where would you look?
Between now and through the whole spawning season, a live shiner is probably your best. When you get into bedding fish, you want to use something that's flary looking, like a big crawdad or a critter bait of some type. Works real well. You run that across the bed, and they have to just eat it. They just want to get it out of there.
Looking for that reaction strike, huh?
That's what they're looking for.
Very cool,
Absolutely.
Ron. Well, tell them how you can get a hold of you over at Ron's Tackle Box or come visit.
All righty. I'm at 380 South Lake Shore Way, which is 1792 in Lake Alfred. Phone number 863-956-4990.
Well,
Give me a call, and I'll send you to the right place.
I appreciate it, Ron, our freshwater guru. As always, thanks for giving us a shout, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have
buddy.
a great day. Be safe.
All right, so that was Ron from Ron's Tackle Box. Always a good call there, keeping us up to date with what's going on in the freshwater world. We've got another caller on the line that we're going to get to here, but if you want to join the conversation again, 1-800-969-9352. We've got Captain John from Largo on the line this morning. How are you doing, Captain John?
Doing fine, Captain. Doing Hubbard. Had a question for you and the other captains. Just getting back to that venting and drop down device.
Yes, sir.
And the question is, let's just say, for example, you're maybe not quite versed with those devices, and or you didn't have it, or whatever. You may be more of a inshore fisherman, but you're doing some nearshore stuff or whatever, and you do catch let's say a grouper or whatever, and of course it may be undersized, and of course it doesn't make the ascent to the surface, and of course it dies. Now, do you cut the fish loose and let it float away, or are you allowed to keep that fish? And just to me, on one last note, it just seems like a sin to cut that fish loose and let it float away. I mean, when that could be a little lunch for somebody, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know, it's in God's hands at that time. Let's just go that way. What's the deal on that?
So there is absolutely no way possible that you can keep that fish. Even if
that's a shame.
Yeah, even if you, for example, are reeling up a fish and a shark comes up and grabs it, even if it's a legal in-season legal fish that's legal sized, it's technically not legal to keep it once it's been mutilated or cut up. And the same thing with that fish that you're talking about, because if that was true, you could keep a bunch of fish out of season, and when stopped, it wouldn't go back down. Sorry, I had to keep this one. So it would be impossible to regulate and manage the fishery if that was permitted. But I agree with you.
I didn't think of that part of it. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
I agree with you. It is very disappointing to see that.
It is, but that's too many people would keep it and say, well, it would have floated. It was floating. I picked it back up, and that's not going to fly.
But if you use the best practices that are laid out in that returnthemright.org website or fishingforourfuture.com website, if you use those best practices, which is getting the fish up quickly, getting it off the hook quickly, getting it back in the water quickly, and utilizing a descending device, you won't have those fish float away. You just won't see it. Very rarely there's some fish, like Captain Jerry and I were talking about, that occasionally 1 in 20 you're going to struggle getting back down, but most of the fish that you encounter are going to go back down and live to see another day. As we were talking earlier in the show, even in 400 foot of water, it's been found to work. So when you're fishing near shore, you just got to use those best practices, get it back in the water quickly, and let them live to fight another day.
Yeah, gotcha, Captain. That's fantastic. And like I said, I always wondered about that. You know, it just seemed to me like that was. I understand what you meant about the fishery and that, and how people, like the other captain said, you know, would be doing that and catching a lot of U5s and stuff like that. You know, and so I can fully understand it. But as I still said, it does seem kind of like a sin, though, to let them float away.
I agree. Well, we appreciate the call this morning. Thank you, Captain John.
No problem. Thank you guys for having a great show.
Hey, I appreciate it. And as he said, it is disappointing to see him float away. But I mean, how many fish do you see float away, Captain Jerry? If you get them up quickly, off the hook quickly, get them vented quickly, it's very small percentages that you see float away, right?
Yeah, sometimes you get 1 out of 10, maybe 2 out of 10, but for the most part, most of them go down.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you switch to that descending device, almost all of them will go down if you get them on the descender quickly, and they all go down with the descending device. Now, the question is how many of them will live in the long run. I think it's very similar to the venting tool numbers, and a lot of the research that I've seen through the Release Mortality Symposium through the returnthemright.org development, through all those meetings that I attended, the venting tool, when used properly, quickly, in the right place, it is very similar to descending device, if not a little bit behind it. And that's the problem, is not a lot of people, not professional, experienced anglers like yourself, know where to stick that venting tool.
Yeah, that's right.
I would highly, strongly encourage everybody listening, if you go near shore, offshore fishing, stick to a descending device, because it's 100% easier to use. You don't have to know where to put the venting tool. The descending device, you just clip on the lip or put it in the basket and send it back down to bottom. Plus, you're not putting another hole in the fish like you have to with a venting tool, and it makes it a lot easier to get that fish back down to the bottom to live another day. So I would encourage everybody to stick to a descending device and either pick that or really do some research and learn how to properly vent to fish. if you're going to go with a venting tool. But even utilizing venting tools, we still bring along a descending device, because you get that big 20-pound red snapper that took 5 minutes to get up to the surface because someone was using a spinning reel and light tackle. He's going to need to get descended because it took so long to get to the surface. So got to really pick and choose what you want to use, right?
That's a fact.
And take care of the fish. But if you have a question, like I said, you can always join the conversation, 1-800-969-9352. Well, what else do we want to chat about? We've got great weather coming up this week. I mean, we've seen kingfish and mackerel. You've been seeing a lot of bait out there on your ride out?
Oh, yeah. A lot of bonitas and
yeah,
a lot of bait.
And the pelagic fishery right now, holy moly.
We've been catching quite a few wahoo lately.
Oh, yeah.
Really nice ones.
Yeah, the wahoo fishery is going really well. We're seeing a lot of blackfin tuna. This past week, we caught 2 sailfish on those party boat trips. So it is the time of year where you see those pelagics get fired up. And on the backside of this front, you're going to have a lot of water temperature gradients out there on the surface with all these wind rips, and I think you have a good shot at them.
The blackfins have been pretty good lately. We had 4 on at one time the other day.
Trolling?
Yeah.
What's your favorite trolling lure for those blackfins?
We've been using the Marauders.
The Marauders, okay. So we utilize a lot of the Rapala X-Wraps and the Nomad DTX, but Marauders is by far your favorite?
Yeah.
And
because the wahoos, that's wahoo and the blackfin seem to hit them.
Yeah. And the Marauder is like the
lipless crankbait.
Yeah.
Just like the lipless crankbait.
That's a good way to explain it. So a Marauder is like a Yozuri Bonita or the Nomad Mad Max. Those are the same thing. The Marauder is, when you said that, I was like, what's a Marauder? But then I remembered that's what my father would refer to, the Nomad Mad Max or the Yozuri Bonita. That is the fanciful term or a legendary term for that bait, and they used to be much more simple. Nowadays they definitely come in a variety of colors.
Yeah, and seems like the purple one's the best for us.
Yeah, purple, blacks, darker colors. I would agree 100% for billfish, for wahoo, even tuna. But we see a lot of tuna come up on that mahi color as well. The mahi color seems to work really well, especially when we're trolling the lipped plugs like the Rapala X-Wrap, and then the old trusty redhead white body lipped plug. I don't think I've seen a Marauder in redhead white body.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah, maybe we need to
We have a guy
send a
that
letter.
uses pink all the time, and he seems to do pretty good with that.
Yeah, the pink body with the dark purple back. Yeah, we have a guest who's caught 3 wahoo back to back on that very lure. But again, it comes back to that dark purple, those darker colors. It might have a pink body, but predominantly is going to be that darker color. And I think that really works well when you're targeting those wahoo, those darker colors. I don't know what it is about it.
That seems to be the color, the purple black. They use. I'm trying to think of it now. It's a stick bait, and I done forgot the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I use them all the time. It's got a little lead head and.
You're talking about a cedar plug.
Cedar plug, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those work well. For tuna, or you're saying for wahoo too?
For wahoo too. It's good for tuna also.
Huh. I don't think I've seen or heard of people using cedar plugs for wahoo. I love the dredges where you get them back to back to back, and the cedar plug dredge where you got 2 or 3 cedars and then the back one has a hook. That seems to work really well too. But more on the other side. Give us a shout if you want to join the conversation. 1-800-969-9352. We'll be back.
Captain Mike Anderson here for Gator Jim's Fishing Tackle. You know, I've been talking about Gator Jim's now for many, many years.
Don't troll straight, you know. They
Yeah.
want to jump out of the water, so we got to
10
have
knots is
something
fast.
Yeah.
They the Nomad DTX Minnow seems to troll really fast for a lipped plug. Is that Jim?
Is that you had a guest?
What?
At 6:50, you had a calling guest.
No, not that I know of.
Do you know this guy?
Jim Lavelle from Ohio? No.
No.
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
He said he was a calling guest for the show.
Yeah, he said he was calling in at 6:50 to do some programming or something.
It might be for a different show. I thought this was Jim, like our U.S. Coast Guard Jim. Yeah. But I was like, that's not the right last name. That'd be interesting. We bring him on the show and he starts talking about some lawyer thing or something.
Yeah.
This is the wrong show, man. Oh, that reminds me. I got to, speaking of programming. Well, that first hour went fast.
Yeah. Seems to always go fast when I show with Mike, pretty quick.
Yeah. You start talking about stuff and it just rips by. Get a few callers in there. And you guys can call too, watching on Facebook. Mike Mahoney says he's in jail, so he can't call, but the rest of you guys can. Hopefully,
You don't know what Mike's going to say.
Yeah. And he's been hosting the radio for
I know.
more than 10 years, which is impressive. That the FCC hasn't put him in jail.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He definitely makes the Sunday morning 6:20 show interesting. Yeah. I enjoy listening to their antics.
I listen to them when I can. You know?
Yeah.
If I'm not offshore, I'm listening when I get up in the morning.
It's a great way to start the day. I remember growing up, this show on 970 was always on the radio in the morning. Saturday morning, making pancakes in the morning and getting ready for the day.
I'm just giving you the answer you've been looking for. QC Kinetics. Kinetics is energy in motion. We want to keep you in motion.
Another caller.
Consultation today with QC Kinetics. Call QC Kinetics. 813-305-3000.
Nope.
That's 813-305-3000. QC Kinetics.
Random guy, man. I don't know. I said, you want to talk fishing? He goes, no, I don't want to talk about fishing.
He was just trying. He was just trying to get on the show, I guess.
He was supposed to call iHeartRadio and he didn't.
Yeah, what other shows are on this morning? It wasn't his show.
That's great.
Oh, that's funny. You never know what you're going to run into.
No.
We had a show a couple weeks ago where we had this guy talking about Lake Tarpon being Zeus's fish hatchery and how Brazilian peppers were the cure for red tide, and it was crazy, man. He went off on a tangent, and I was like, whoa, we gotta stop this. It was pretty crazy. That's been the craziest call I've gotten so far.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about party boat fishing is you get out there and you just have a cross section of society, and
Oh, yeah.
it's always fun to see people come together. There we go. News Radio 970, Bartow Ford, Real Animals Fishing Radio Show. This morning, it's Captain Dylan Hubbard and Captain Jerry Rathy in studio this morning. Captain Mike Anderson is unfortunately out celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary with his better half, Beth, in the Bahamas. So you guys are stuck with us. But did want to drop a reminder, guys, if you need a new roof or roof repair, don't forget to check out our friends at Affordable Roofing Systems. They understand that your roof is a large investment and protects most everything that you own. Let Affordable Roofing Systems' 3 decades of experience and roofing knowledge guide you through this important process. Whether you need a shingle, metal, Tile or flat roof, Affordable Roofing Systems is your safest choice for repairs or replacements. Affordable Roofing Systems is defined by integrity, respect, and honesty, and has a personalized and professional approach to doing business. Call Affordable Roofing Systems today at 1-888-397-ROOF for your free estimate, or visit their website at affordableroofingflorida.com. Roofs, very important this time of year, keeping you protected from that weather. And the fish, they just run to big structures. Speaking of keeping a roof over their heads, I mean, how many big gags do you think are on those big peaks right now?
There's a bunch, and they know where they live.
Yeah, and it's going to be a mad rush once this weather finally relents. Tomorrow it's going to start calming down, but through this week, finally getting nice again, and it'll be a mad rush. I see it every time in Johns Pass, all those commercial boats. It's like a parade of commercial boats.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll probably start tomorrow morning once that sea height gets below 6 foot. Everybody will be racing out there to get to those big peaks and structures to beat their buddies to those congregated fish.
They'll do it. And sometimes they'll leave it a little bit rougher just so they can be the first one out there when it calms down.
Yeah. Yeah, and being in the commercial industry for so many years, and I'm sure you've done that.
I've done it.
And a lot of them will stay out there on the hook if they can through this type of weather, so they will already be out there to be the first one, right?
I've set out several days before, 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
You get out there and get caught in it, you lay out there and you just wait. There's no use in going back.
Yeah, and you just sit there on the hook and
wait for them.
8 to 10 footers.
Down. Yeah, and that gets boring.
Yeah, that would get boring, but also interesting at the same time sitting out there. I mean, this front had 10, 12, almost 14 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big front. So hopefully no one was sitting out there on the hook for 4 days through
that would have been no fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes the current's going against the wind and they get close together, and that makes it a little on the dicey side.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make your boat get up sideways to those swells and those seas, and that's what gets dangerous quickly.
Yeah, that's no fun then.
Mm-hmm. It takes the fun out of it. I don't know. I think sitting out there for 3 days in 10-foot seas, I don't think there's much fun about that.
No.
But being the first one out there behind the front, now that would be fun.
Yeah, they bite good usually after that.
Yeah, and deeper water, it's almost immediately as soon as that water calms down. The shallower you go, you not only have to wait for the water to calm down, but also to clear up. So that's the trick, and timing your trip around those fronts this time of year becomes so important, right?
All in all, that's for sure.
And that's the secret sauce, the McDonald's secret sauce of our offshore fishery this time of year is it being right on that timing, and that's why you see commercial guys get in trouble, and even recreational guys, is because you're trying to play that front and be out there right before the front and right after the front.
The weather guys are sometimes wrong.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
And they're never right in the wrong way. It's always, it's going to be okay, and then it turns out it's not.
Yeah, got to be careful out there. We will be back on the other side talking more fishing. If you want to join the conversation, we'd love to have you join us. 1-800-969-9352. We'll be right back. Be wrong 50%
of the time.
Yeah.
Still keep your job.
You know what I meant.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I was about ready to say that.
Yeah.
Hopefully
there's no weatherman. No weatherman that's watching.
Yeah, I held it back. I was going to say that.
I would have said been wrong 50% of the time and still kept their job. But 90% is probably true too in some cases.
It is. I mean, you listen to it and you look at it and it's going to be okay, and then it just don't.
It doesn't hold up that way.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We had 15, 18 knots that 4-day trip I had almost all the time out of east. So going down, it was in the trough, wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Coming back, it was the same way, so it wasn't real bad.
Yeah. Just windier than expected.
Yeah. it slowed down for a little bit, and then as soon as it got dark, when I was ready to fish for the muttons, it picked back up, and at night and make it rough. We did good.
Catching muttons in rough weather ain't easy.
A mutton is a hard fish. Unless he's hungry,
Yeah.
you got to sit. And we were swinging like a dog's tail, what I call a dog's tail.
Oh, man.
When you do that, muttons, you got to leave that sinker on the bottom. You got to play him.
It cannot move. You got to walk
No,
that dog.
that's it. Mm-hmm. And boy, when it's swinging like that, it's hard.
Yeah. You got to be a very experienced angler to make that one work. I think mutton are probably one of the most leader-shy fish that we target in the Gulf. That and queen snapper are very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, queen snapper, what do they use? 10, 12, 14-foot leaders a lot of times off them deep drop rigs?
Yeah, I don't use them quite as long, but I use white squid. I use eaten squid.
Oh.
The oligos. The elax, the old red nasty. They catch them, but not as good. I buy the high dollar bait. That's my trick to it.
You guys, that one's a good one. Write that one down. Food quality squid.
Absolutely.
Okay.
When I fished in the Caribbean, if I didn't have food quality, California Monterey squid, I wouldn't go.
Wow.
I mean, that's how much we lost in production.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I wouldn't go if I didn't have the right bait. That's a long trip down, a long trip back, and a lot of expense to do it.
Yeah.
But white squid is the trick.
I'm writing that one down mentally. That's awesome. Yeah, those queen snapper can be tricky, man. And I've never used that food quality squid before.
Most of the regulars that I have, they bring it now. They know. They bring the white squid, even though we have the other. They bring it.
Yeah, they'll pay the extra money to bring the better squid.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Wow. And if you don't catch fish on it, keep it nice and nice. That's good eating.
But they catch it. It catches.
Yeah.
The yellow eyes like it too, better than
the silkies.
Yeah.
I wonder, have you used it in shallower water too?
Oh yeah.
Is it comparable, the same thing?
Yeah, but
it catches better.
Not really, because
you
got so much stuff. The porgies and all the other stuff eating.
Yeah.
But for the deep water, that's
when you say deep water, when you're fishing past 300, 400 foot,
500, 800 feet.
White squid. Do you think that has to do with the color, or just?
I think it's a smell of something. It can't be just the color.
Yeah.
It's got to be something different about them.
They smell cleaner, fresher.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Where do you get food quality squid from?
When I was commercial fishing, you noticed the reduction in production with it.
Where do you get food quality squid from? Not Aylesworth, right?
No, right next to the boat up there, Rusty Bellies. I go in there and buy.
From the restaurant.
They have the fish market right there too, so I buy them right there.
Holy moly! So you have to order it ahead of time through a local fish market.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just walk over there and buy them before the trip when I'm going deep water. And a lot of my customers do the same thing, but I have people come from different places and they'll buy them before they get there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they get them from. Some of them go to Asian markets.
Yeah. So white Monterey, California squid.
That's the bait.
Interesting. Learn something new every day. That's cool.
They hit cut bait and stuff, and they'll hit the regular squid, but just if they're not wanting to eat, you're going to get him on the white one.
And that's queen snappers, silkies.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference for grouper, you think?
No.
No.
Groupers.
They don't care.
Yeah, he don't care.
Tilefish?
Tilefish don't care.
Yeah.
But I mean, usually if I got it, when I'm fishing with it, I use it for the tilefish.
Mm-hmm.
Barrelfish.
Barrelfish. That's a very good eating fish. Ooh, I love a barrelfish.
Me too.
The barrelfish is probably one of my favorites that we catch when we're out there deep water.
And they fight hard all the way up.
A barrelfish, yeah. They don't get barrel trauma.
No, they'll go right back down too quick.
Yeah. That's interesting. Wesley Chapel, where to take my kids fishing. Where's Wesley Chapel? That's North Tampa, right?
Yeah. Wesley Chapel. I get off right there when I go to Tarpon. I get off on 54, 56 right there.
Yeah.
Wesley Chapel's up that area. A little further than that, I believe.
What'd you say? All right. Yeah, because he's less likely to hold on. I gotcha. There we go.
Points and promises made during the following program are not those of WFLA AM, its staff, management, or parent company, iHeartMedia Incorporated.
Welcome to the Bartow Ford Real Animals Radio Show, your weekly voyage into Florida fishing. Presented by Hubbard's Marina, hosted by Captain Mike Anderson and Captain Dylan Hubbard.
News Radio, WFLA, Bartow Ford Real Animals Radio Show. Captain Dylan Hubbard this morning. No Captain Mike with me, unfortunately. He's down in the Bahamas with Beth celebrating their wedding anniversary. But we've got Captain Jerry Wrathy in studio this morning, and we are talking fishing. And we appreciate you joining us on this second hour of the show. Unfortunately, only second hour. We've only got 2 hours this morning, but we got Mike from Wesley Chapel on the line. How are you doing this morning, Mike?
Hi, good. My grandkids have been wanting me to take them fishing, and none of us have ever fished before.
Okay.
So I was wondering if you could recommend someone.
Yeah, so recommend someone as far as going out on a charter? Or where to fish?
Well, no, somebody to take us out.
I gotcha. So
on a charter.
So there's a lot of different charter options, and I would say the biggest thing that's kind of dictate what you want to do is what do you want to catch? Do you want to go inshore fishing and stay in the bay? Or do you want to go offshore and try to catch some snapper and grouper? How old are the kids that you have fishing with you?
5, 7, and 8.
I gotcha.
So my guess would be inshore, and it really doesn't matter what they catch as long as they catch something.
They just want to bend some rods, right? So
yeah.
I would say 5, 7, and 8, that's a great time to kind of get your feet wet near shore fishing on a party boat style kind of half-day fishing trip with us at Hubbard's Marina or a variety of other party boats in the area. But inshore fishing, there's a ton of inshore guides right on realanimals.com. You can look at the variety of inshore charter captains that is there through the 866 Gamefish phone number as well is a great way to get in touch and book an inshore charter, or you can always message us through the Hubbard's Marina website and we can put you in contact with the right people. But there are a ton of great inshore charter captains. It depends on where you want to fish as well. But I would say this time of year, the target would be is if you just want to bend rods, probably sheep's head, mangrove snapper, mackerel in the bay, especially upper Tampa Bay. There's a lot of mackerel still around those bridges. And the snook and redfish are around, but a little bit more finesse to targeting those with the 5, 7-year-old kids. I would definitely say the sheep's head fishing would be a great opportunity. And you could even do that if you wanted to on a local pier or a fishing pier or a big dock or a big seawall or marina area, light tackle and a little piece of shrimp. But give us a shout through the Hubbard's Marina website, and I will get you contacted with the right people after the show there, Mike. Appreciate the call this morning.
Okay, thanks for your help.
Hey, no worries, man. You have a great
Have a
day.
good day.
Enjoy fishing with your grandchildren. That's awesome. Nothing beats taking the kids out fishing.
Yes, that's for sure.
Get them hooked on their tackle box instead of their Xbox, right?
That's one of the things I say.
I love
no
that one.
No Xbox, no phone.
Yeah, amen to that. And now we've got Jim Fogel, our safe boating tip of the week. How you doing this morning, Jim?
Hey, great, Captain Dylan, Captain Jerry. Good show, guys.
Good morning.
Good show.
Hey, fake it till you make it, Jim.
Yeah. 2 days ago, October 28th, as I recall, was a pretty gnarly day out there. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think most of us were not out on the water.
It was a little-
However, a Coast Guard station, St. Petersburg, 45-foot response boat had to rescue a guy from a 19-foot, wasn't even a bay boat. I think it was more like a flats boat
I
near
saw that.
McDill Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course the Coast Guard advises that when there's adverse weather, we stay home. Now, I can't imagine why this guy thought it was a good idea to go out that day, but I imagine by the time he pays for salvage and maybe a new engine and wiring and so forth and so on, he'll probably think better of it next time he goes out in bad weather.
Yeah, that was definitely an epic trip across upper Tampa Bay in that type of weather. I mean, I think it was gusting probably 25, 30 knots that day, and it gets rough in Tampa Bay.
It does.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've all been out there where it was slick as glass outside and come back in and got the heck beat out of us just trying to get home across the bay,
Yeah, it can get sporty a lot faster than people realize, and you definitely need to pay attention to that weather forecast.
A lot quicker than they think.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
the Coast Guard gives warnings over the radio too, right, Jim?
Yes. Yeah. When it gets to a certain level, the Coast Guard will interrupt Channel 16 with this very obvious alert signal and remind you of what the weather's like or what's coming up on the weather.
Yeah.
So we're glad this guy. Go ahead.
I always know it's going to be a nice weather when the Coast Guard comes over 16, and they're like, all mariners seek safe harbor.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this will be a fun ride home.
And we're glad this guy got rescued, and he apparently was not hurt, but not a good idea. I mean, please, folks, remember we live in an area where it's going to be a better day tomorrow. I don't care how good it is today; it's going to be better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to be out there every day.
Yep. Amen to that.
Please pay attention. All right, guys. Thanks for your time. For the Coast Guard Auxiliary in St. Pete, Jim Fogle. Be safe out there.
Thank you, Jim. As always, appreciate the call. So Jim is always giving us good information. I mean, that was definitely a sad situation to see that boat go down, and it's so important this time of year to watch the weather, not only prior to going out there, but also the night before, the morning of your trip, because it can change
real fast.
And what's so frustrating to me is you'll have people that are checking the weather, and it's not necessarily frustrating so much that I can understand where people are coming from. They got to travel in from out of town. They got to take time off work, and they're like, hey, what does weather look like a week and a half from now? It's like, dude, you just don't know.
That's for sure. You're not going to know.
Yeah. I mean, this time of year, really any time of year, the weather's not very accurate, if at all, past 72 to 96 hours out, 3 to 4 days. And really, until you get about 48 hours out, you can't really put too much salt into the timing of these fronts.
Because they change it quick, and the weather changes that quick.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like you're going to have 5 knots, 10 knots, and you end up with 20.
Yeah, or you'll have a front coming down, and all of a sudden that prefrontal activity will kick up that wasn't forecasted, and it will get nastier ahead of the front. So it really takes a keen eye and continually checking. Just because the weather looked good last night doesn't mean it looks the same this morning. And I've had that happen before where you're planning a trip, everything looks good, you look at the weather, everything's good to go, you wake up the next morning and wind is blowing, and the forecast has completely changed. And that can create a situation in which people are disappointed or upset, but that's the name of the game, is you have to work with the weather. Can't fight the weather, right?
Yeah. If you travel in from far to come go fishing, better have a backup plan in case you can't get out there.
Yeah. I always tell people who are traveling in, or if you have guests coming into town, being as though most of the people watching our radio or listening to our radio show are local, if you have guests coming into town, you really want to try to plan that outdoor adventure, whether it's fishing or whatever, on the front half of their visit. That way, if the weather's nasty, I mean, even the worst cold front isn't going to be more than 3 to 4 to 5 days of adverse weather conditions. So if you plan it on the front half of their vacation, that way if the weather is bad or that front is rolling through,
they may get a chance to get out.
Yeah, the backside of their trip. So always important, especially this time of year where those cold fronts get almost back-to-back in sequential line. But you always have that little reprieve between the fronts, and that's when the fishing is just out of this world, and you got to be able to capitalize on it, right?
That's for sure. You get them these fronts every 2 or 3 days, they 2 or 3 days apart. You'll get a couple of days in between them, but you got to make it count.
Yeah, and you got to try to be as flexible as possible. I know it's difficult when people are trying to schedule time off of work and schedule kids, someone to watch your kids, et cetera, but if you can swing it, trying to plan your trip around those fronts and get lucky with that timing, that's when you're going to catch a lot of fish.
It can be rewarding, that's for sure.
Oh, very rewarding. And that holds true even inshore with these hogfish that we're seeing a lot of this time of year. And the hogfish bites slowly starting to pick up more and more. Do you guys do any nearshore stuff? Or are you all deep water?
I'm all deep water.
Yeah. You just run right on by them hogfish, don't you?
Run right by them. We catch a few every now and then out in the middle grounds, big ones.
Yeah,
but people bring rock shrimp and fish with them sometimes and catch some nice ones.
Those rock shrimp work well. Some of the biggest ones I've seen out there in the middle grounds are always on the small pinfish, too. You just get lucky targeting those big scamp out there and run across a big 19, 20-pound big old hogfish.
I've actually caught 2 on diamond jigs.
Really?
Yes.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I've caught 2 of them on diamond jigs out there, and they were in the 15-pound class.
Wow.
Really big hogfish.
On the same trip or two different times?
2 different times.
Oh.
But you don't very seldom see them hit a jig.
No. And nowadays with all the slow pitch jig fishing that we see out there, I would be surprised we haven't seen that more.
Yeah. We had a guy in 900 feet, caught an amberjack on 30-pound test.
God bless him.
That was
20 minutes
later. He was
later.
thinking snowy grouper the whole time. I was hoping so, but I figured after the first 5 minutes what it was going to be, but I didn't want to tell him.
You didn't have the heart.
I didn't have the heart to tell him. But he landed it. He got it up. And then those slow pitch jig rods are so limber and stuff. 30-pound test. That I wouldn't even think about it in that deep.
I know. We had a guy that caught a 57-pound big gag on one of them things. Ooh. And I didn't think it was possible to land a big grouper like that on 30-pound test with one of those spaghetti noodle slow pitch rods, but it does happen. I've seen it. But don't forget, guys, also we want to give a shout out to our November 6th fishing conversation going on at Tampa Bass Pro Shops. If you want to join us for a chance to win free trips and talk fishing in person, November 6th, Saturday, November 6th, we'll be at Tampa Bass Pro Shops at 2 p.m. for that fishing conversation. And Santa Claus is coming to Bass Pro Shops that day, too. So at 5 p.m., Tampa Bass Pro Shops has their Santa Claus parade. So hopefully we'll see you Saturday, November 6th for those events. And on the other side, we're going to be talking more fishing. You can join the conversation by giving us a call at 1-800-969-9352. We'll be right back. You see it on your boat even more often, fishing in deeper water.
Yeah, they want to do it all the time.
Yeah. Do you most of the time are drift fishing, or do you hold up with your motors?
Sometimes I hold up with the motors. If I can drift where it's good drift, I let them drift. If not, I'm on the aft controls.
Yeah. And then if you're aft controlling, you're holding up, trying to keep even your bait fishermen straight up and down.
Yeah. I'll hold it up quarter to the sea on the stern. And sometimes down south we got the tide. If I got a southeast wind, and I'm on the controls, I have a great drift.
Yeah.
We whoop up on them good.
Because you got that current going through that box.
Yeah, when I'm on the stern controls, I can't fish. But if I got a good drift, I get out there and fish with them.
Yeah.
I give them lessons, or try to anyway.
Do you use the sea anchor?
No.
No socks, nothing like that.
That's a lot of.
Not on a party boat.
No, and we just don't have the long enough drift. The bottom, you can't make a long enough drift. There are places, but the drift is not for the sock. It's too much to get up, and the Yankee Cap uses it. And one of the guys I got on the boat used to work for him, and he said, on a long drift it's fine, but if you got to pull that thing up too many times, it's a lot of gear, and it's heavy. It's strong.
Yeah. Can't you break them though? Like break the sock to where it closes up and it's easier to pull up?
Yeah.
I've never used one, but it's still hard.
They usually have a tagline on the back and swing around and pick it up from the back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then pull it up like that?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's, you got to use heavy like tackle for it because it's such a pull.
Wow.
And wherever you've got it fastened to, it's got to be strong.
So you got to tie it off to your anchor ballast, basically.
Yeah.
Ballard.
Yeah, they tie them to the stern of the Yankee Caps, but they messed up one time and he said they didn't put the rope where it was supposed to be, and it got on the rail, tore the rail.
Tore the rail off?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that, when it opens up, it's a lot of force.
Yeah, pulling back on that heavy boat. That's interesting.
Yeah. But I
you
get out
fish
there and
the
fish
ridge
with
mostly?
as much as possible, and deep water, the thing is to make everybody have the same weights.
Yeah.
They need to go down at the same time. They need to almost work together, because if you got one guy slacking too much out and one guy walking his stuff into the rest of them, and the hardest part is to get them to go down together, because it looks like the boat's going this way, but a lot of times it's going this way, and they go behind each other.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of deep water fishing, is
getting everybody working together.
Yeah.
And that's what I always preach, is you're only as strong as your weakest link. If you get one guy who drops down and then all of a sudden wants to reel up and drop right back down, he's going to tangle everybody.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, well, a lot of times I got them now, they'll ask me, can I go down, and I'll look, and, if I tell them to hold them up, I said, no, you're just going to get tangled up.
Yeah. Well, once you lose half a spool of braided line, they tend to listen the next go round.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get a shark on, he'll come along, bite through everything.
Oh, yeah. News Radio WFLA, Bartow Ford Real Animals Radio Show. It is Captain Dylan Hubbard this morning and Captain Jerry Rathy. We don't have Cap Mike in studio with us this morning, so you guys are stuck with us. But we are talking fishing, and if you want to join the conversation, we'd love to have you join us. Give us a shout at 1-800-969-9352. We are talking all about fishing, inshore, nearshore, and offshore, but mostly focused offshore this morning. I like it. It's a nice change of pace. It's good to have you in studio this morning.
Well, I'm enjoying it.
It is fun. And we talked a little bit about the council meeting and some of the stuff that's going on. We've got Amberjack, too. Amberjack's one of them things. How do you feel about the Amberjack bite? I think overall, personally, I've seen it kind of decrease lately.
It has. Now, the last few trips I've caught them pretty good. But for the most part, they haven't been where they normally are.
Yeah.
I found them by accident, or they found me, because I didn't see them when I stopped.
Oh, there you go. They swam up on you.
Yeah, we were catching large beeliners, 2, 3, 4 pounds.
Oh,
that's large.
That's
and
a monster.
They decided they wanted to eat them.
Oh, there you go.
And we had them in the 80, 90-pound class. I did not see them when I stopped, but they found us.
Huh. They're hanging off the wreck or off the bottom.
Off the break.
Yeah. And I've heard that from some other people that I was talking to recently, that the jacks have been hanging off the brakes and off the wrecks and off the springs. It's almost like they're getting pressured to the point where they know they have to kind of hide out.
Yeah.
And then they come back once they feel that the boat is gone or the pressure is gone, and they can't resist that 3 and 4 pound beeliner. But illegal to use them as a bait. But if you're retrieving that fish up off the bottom and it just happens to get eaten, that's a different ball game.
We had a picture of one of the big ones, in the beeliner. Never had him hooked. The beeliner was stuck in his mouth. He couldn't get it out.
Wow.
And we put the fish on the boat.
That's awesome.
And then pulled the beeliner out of his gills, and the guy kept it.
Wow. 2-for-1 deal.
2 for 1.
That's amazing.
That's a BOGO.
Yeah, for real, a deep water BOGO. And yeah, I've definitely seen the same thing with the jacks. It's been slow the last 2 to 3 years compared to how it's been historically, and definitely one of those things. And it seems a little bit different from the cyclical nature of the gag grouper fishery, or the red grouper fishery specifically seems to really bounce up and down. Amberjack just seems to have been on a slow, steady decline and doesn't seem to have a bounce back. Occasionally we'll see it, like last year behind Sally, I think it was, that really big storm that went into the northern Gulf. We got a big push of jacks behind that storm, and I was hopeful that we would see them stick around, but it ended as quickly as it started.
Even way far to the south, we're not seeing them like we used to.
Yeah,
you couldn't hardly fish some places for them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the wrecks now just don't have them. You got small ones, but no large ones like they used to be.
Yeah, they seem to be very picked through, and that's kind of what the discussion is at the council level right now with the stock assessment currently going on for Amberjack. Is the outlook continues to look bleak, so I think we're going to see some hard restrictions on those species too. But again, the trend is trying to keep them open and just setting a very limited season with very limited access for a set number of years so they can keep that fisheries dependent data flowing and compare it.
Saw some really large triggerfish.
Oh my goodness. Monster triggerfish.
And it seems like it's always closed.
Yeah.
When we do find them.
Well, this year we saw one of the longest triggerfish seasons that we've had, and they did just implement an increase in the catch level for triggerfish. So this upcoming year we should see those triggerfish open March 1st, and I would imagine they'd stay open through end of May. And then they have that seasonal spawning closure June and July. And I would imagine we'll probably have a fall season on triggerfish next year too. So extended season for those big triggers. And we've seen the same thing. Big triggerfish, big vermilion, and lane snapper getting bigger and more prolific.
The lane snapper, I couldn't imagine them closing them, but I've had to throw a few of those back lately too.
Yeah, I don't want to get started on lane snapper. We don't have enough time left in the show for me to go on my lane snapper soapbox, but that is a product.
I shared that video as much as possible.
Oh, so you saw that video?
I did.
Yeah, for those of you listening, I did about a 5.5 minute diatribe on lane snapper and how upset I was that the council started talking about this in 2019 about how healthy lane snapper were and how they're getting bigger, more prolific, and it took until 2021 for them to pass an increase in catch levels, and that was January 2021. We are now late October 2021, and National Marine Fisheries Service still has yet to implement that catch level increase. Very frustrating, but hopefully soon, and then hopefully next year with that almost, I mean, it was more than double. So hopefully we won't see that lane snapper closure occur again. But it is a healthy, robust fishery for sure.
And I really think it's due to the shrimpers having to have the fish devices on there to let them go, because it was a lot of bycatch were the lane snapper when I used to see them down in the Keys, and I'd get bait from the shrimpers. Most of it was lane snapper.
Yeah, lane snapper, juvenile red snapper, those bycatch reduction devices, and the shrimper nets have definitely done a number to help the fishery, and they're continuing that for sure. And hopefully you can join the fishing conversation going on this morning. Give us a shout at 1-800-969-9352. We'll be back, Real Animals, Saturday morning.
Middle of my yard, 'cause laying on the ground all day, well, gets
8-hour charters and stuff.
Yeah.
Red grouper fishing, nice.
Big lanes.
And I think that's due to that, because we didn't have them that many back when the shrimping was open to whatever.
Yeah. I never saw the lane snapper like we've seen them lately. I mean, now they're catching them at Johns Pass Bridge. I mean, I saw some nice ones off our dock in Johns Pass. We're seeing them in 110, 120 foot of water. It's really amazing how the expansiveness of that species has grown so much.
Down off of Tortugas, I caught them in 200.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And had to throw them back.
That's
nice.
nuts.
I mean, nice ones too.
Big
2
ones.
pounds, yeah.
That's crazy, man. It's definitely, I've seen that fishery expand. Yellowtails as well.
Oh, we've caught some big ones on the elbow.
Yeah.
Boy, they were.
And I mean, you've always had yellowtails on the elbow, but not like we've had now.
No.
And now you're getting yellowtails into the grounds, even in the northern grounds. We're seeing yellowtails, and when I was a kid, we didn't see that. I mean,
no,
it was rare to catch yellowtails in our area. Now it's becoming like an every trip thing.
Yeah.
And they say that has a lot to do with climate change. Or the fishery is expanding, who knows? But definitely crazy. Look at that. 7.2 foot at Egmont Key this morning. It's a great day not to be fishing offshore.
Yeah, you know it.
It's a great day to be talking fishing.
Damn, is that rain coming in?
Yeah. Nice big old
rained
storm.
on me coming over.
It rained this morning at 4 a.m. when I was getting in my truck.
Boy, we have caught some large triggerfish that we've had to throw back. Boy.
Monsters. We have a new video coming out tomorrow from a fun trip we did as a captain and crew staff. We took 18 of us out there and we just went fishing for fun in like 220 foot. I mean, we caught triggerfish monsters, and it was sad to see them go. And big red grouper, 25 pound red grouper was nuts. So, but it's good to see that fishery rebound so much, because I remember when I was real young, the captain that ran our long range trips, Capt Matt Shemp, he loved triggerfish, and that was his thing. And it was rare that we saw a lot of 12, 14-inch triggerfish. But when we saw one, he always made a big deal about it because it was his favorite eating fish.
They're good.
Yeah, incredibly good. Hard to fillet, but good eating. One of my favorite.
I used to tell greenhorns to scale that fish for me.
Scale it. Oh, that's brutal. How many knives did they go through before they finally told you I can't do it, Cap?
One of them said, "Oh, I dropped it overboard."
He told you dropped the triggerfish overboard?
Yeah, it was an accident. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's a good one. Hopefully he got a raise. That's inventive right there.
That was back in my younger years.
When you had to give them a hard time?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've mellowed out. I got guys now when I get disappointed, I look at them and say, I've fired people for less. I mean, and it's serious.
Yeah.
I mean, I did back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was tough on a crew, but I always had a good crew.
Yeah.
I didn't put up with no. Seems like today you got to put up with more than you should.
Yeah.
People don't.
It's hard
wanna
to
show
find
up.
good people.
They don't want to show up.
They don't want to work.
No.
Yep. It's
They
crazy.
cry about not getting sleep, but I said, y'all get more sleep than I do.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
Well, it's the same thing with captains. I mean, a lot of these fishery issues that we're dealing with offshore. I mean, I had one guy talking about the data collection system. Well, they should pay us for our data. We shouldn't have to pay to operate. I'm like, dude, it's a limited access privilege program, dude. It's a moratorium. There's only 1,289 permits in the Gulf of Mexico. You're privileged to be able to participate in this fishery. So we're improving the data system by moving away from MREP and moving to census-based data. It's not something you're entitled to. There's no participation trophies.
Yeah.
You got to get out there and you got to catch some fish.
The IFQs is one of the things that I hate.
I'm just talking to him. Yeah, the IFQ. We got to keep that out of our fishery.
Yeah.
Fish hatcheries. Is this the fish hatchery guy? This might be the guy who talked about Lake Tarpon and the fish hatcheries. No, that was the red tide guy with the mangroves that we had so many problems with. That's what he came on with. He showed up in this program as fish hatcheries. Have your finger on the trigger. No, I'll take it, but I'm just giving you a heads up. I think it might be the same guy. Yeah. The guy I was talking about, my DM. We'll find out.
Yeah, I was so disappointed with the IFQ. If you've got a handful of people with a public resource,
Now, so the limited access privilege program is different from assigning ownership of the natural resource. I mean, the IFQ system, love it or hate it, it's in the commercial fishery, it's established, whatever. That's not my fishery.
Yeah, I quit fishing commercially. I did a little bit, but I mean, I wasn't going to pay somebody to go fishing.
Yeah.
Resource that I fished for all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't agree with it. And you've got a lot of people sitting there with all this, and they lease it out and make more money and don't even have to run their own boat.
Yeah.
That ain't right.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird thing.
Now we're down to a lot less permits now, boats fishing, so that might be a good thing, but still you got the people sitting there making all the money and don't even leave their couch.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the tenets and goals of IFQ was consolidation of the fleet, and it did it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see that in our charter fleet. We're already consolidated enough. News Radio WFLA, Bartow Ford, Real Animals Saturday morning. Appreciate you hanging out with us on this windy, blustery, and, in my opinion, cold Saturday morning.
I'm enjoying the coolness.
I don't know. My body does not like this lack of humidity and cold temperature. I mean, I'm fancy myself still fairly young, but man, when I wake up in the morning and it's chilly like this, I mean, everything starts hurting more and moving around. I know you're laughing at me.
Yeah, just wait till you get my age.
I don't know about that, but it dry air. It's not good for our Florida delicate skin. I need humidity. But we do have a caller this morning. We've got John from Holiday talking fish hatcheries. How you doing this morning, John? Yeah, no worries, buddy. Hey, John, I appreciate the phone call, buddy, but we're not going to be going down that road this morning, unfortunately. We got to avoid Poseidon's fish hatcheries, but it's so interesting. Fish hatcheries are a great thing. I mean, I think the CCA has done a great job with some of the inshore work that they've been doing on not only seeding the fishery with juvenile redfish and from those fish hatcheries, but also oyster restoration work, and they do a lot with fish hatcheries and, ironically, Duke Energy. Have you heard anything about that recent program they've been working on with the redfish?
No, I haven't.
It's amazing how many redfish, juvenile, small redfish that they've been seeding Tampa Bay, Sarasota Bay, Charlotte Harbor with, and CCA and Duke Energy has teamed up to really reinvigorate that inshore fishery with fish hatchery fish.
I saw them some years ago putting them in the Little Manatee River.
Mm-hmm. And they're still hard at it, and they've done a lot with oyster restoration, mangrove shoreline restoration. So it's definitely one of those things that they've been working hard at, and fish hatcheries are important. We don't have any for offshore, unfortunately, though.
No.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Some gag grouper fish hatcheries.
I think they could do it.
I think so too. And aquaculture is the new buzzword at fisheries management and fisheries science meetings, and they're talking about putting our first aquaculture farm right in our area off of Sarasota with Almaco Jacks, which is interesting to me. Yeah, it's a company that is already farming fish off of Hawaii, and it was really cool because we were actually participants, unbeknownst to us. Moat Marine Lab did a cooperative research project with our vessel, and we went out there and caught Almaco Jacks, and Moat Marine brought out all these fish vats and crazy aquatic systems to keep these Almaco Jacks alive that we were catching. We brought them inshore. They loaded them up in trucks. They took them down to Moat, and they actually bred those Almaco Jacks in captivity. And so now the second generation of those fish that we caught in the middle grounds are what's going to be used or potentially used for this aquaculture project off of Sarasota, like 45 miles off the coast there, southwest of Tampa Bay or west of Sarasota. And it's interesting, the proposal, but it hasn't gotten any traction. And then a lot of stuff happened in federal government, that kind of lawsuits, and it came out of the council program. So I don't know what's going on with it now, but it's definitely interesting if we see those farms go into the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of people are against it. I don't know. I think it needs to be done safely, but it'd be interesting.
It would be.
Yeah, definitely give people another option for seafood. If you're not a fisherman or don't go out there and catch your own fish, fresh, locally caught seafood gets pricey, and it gets extremely pricey quickly, whereas these aquaculture farms will give another lower priced option that's, I guess you could say, locally caught, locally raised.
Locally raised, yeah.
Not necessarily locally caught, but interesting what we got onto from fish hatcheries.
Yeah.
But speaking of interesting stuff, we were kind of talking about the break about some good eating fish, and you mentioned barrel fish. To put you on the spot again, being as experienced as you are, what would you consider to be your favorite eating fish? Or if you can't pick one, because I'm a big boy, I like my food, I can't really pick one. If you can't pick one, maybe your top 3 or top 5.
I'm gonna give you the top 3.
Okay.
I like yellow edge grouper.
Oh,
that's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 would be the Alfonsino.
All
now,
right.
That is a tender fish. When you skin him out, there's no red meat on the fillet. That is a great fish. There are just not that many of them. 1,300 feet is the depth. It's hard to get to them, but when you catch them, it's rewarding.
All right.
And after that, I'm going to have to say Scamp Grouper.
There you go. All right. So there was one species that most of our listeners have heard of in your top 3. I think yellow edge is amazing. That's one of my favorite eating deep water fish too. Alfonsino, I haven't had the opportunity to try one of them, but they sound
it is great.
By the explanation and all that white meat, I think as you get deeper, those fish generally have a different consistency to the fish as well. I mean, barrel fish we talked about, I think that's definitely in my top 10.
Barrel fish is a soft feast, but when you cook him, the meat is firm, and it is good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Ugly looking.
Oh, yeah, and slimy.
Slimy as heck. But, yeah, they are great in the pan.
Yes.
Not so pretty on the deck. But
it's a hard fighting fish, a hard fish to keep hooked. He will tear off. He's got a soft lip, something like a pompano.
It looks like a massive pompano.
Yeah.
And some of the times you bring them up and they have that kind of like skeleton-looking approach.
Some people used to call them skeleton fish when they iced them down, commercial fishermen, because you see the skeleton on them after they're dead.
Yeah, they look wild once they hit the ice.
Yeah.
And they are slimy as all get out, but they are definitely good eating. I would say more inshore oriented or nearshore oriented. I would say hogfish.
Hogfish is great.
Triggerfish.
Yeah.
Lionfish. Lionfish isn't something you want to catch, but if you run into a lionfish, they are incredibly good eating.
I haven't seen as many of them offshore as I did a while back.
That's
a good thing. We used to see a lot of them in the grounds, and we saw a lot of them on the elbow, and lately I have not seen that many.
Yeah, we catch them pretty often. I would say that I would agree that we've seen a little bit of a downturn, which is positive. I think there's a lot of people. The FWC has been doing a great job with their lionfish roundups, and I see a lot of lionfish boats out there in the grounds commercially harvesting them. And I know there's some spearfishing commercial lionfish harvesters, and hopefully that becomes more and more popular, because if you haven't tried lionfish before, you should. And the way we defeat that lionfish problem is making them a good, highly sought after plate fish. Yeah. And it's I'm not saying that to try to cure a problem. I'm saying that because they really are good eating. Have you had one before?
Yes.
Here.
I've ate some on the boat before.
Oh, yeah. It's like a mix between a hogfish and a grouper, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And extremely white meat. Just got to watch them spines.
Yeah. There's one more fish like that, and that's the black belly rosefish.
Oh, man.
That is a sweet That's good fish too. They
Captain
don't get very
Jerry's
big,
making
but-
me hungry and making me want to go deep water again, because all these fish are deep water. Black belly rosefish, you're going to run into those 800 foot plus probably.
Yes.
Yeah, deep water.
I've caught them as much as 1,600 feet.
That is extremely deep water. Sword fishing, or are you actually deep dropping?
No, I was
that?
actually deep dropping for them.
Wow, for tiles that deep, or specifically
Just to
rosefish?
see what it was.
Just
I saw
out there having
instructions
some
just
fun.
to see what it was. Yeah, where I fish, I had a lot of times current's too much, and when I catch a current knot, then I'll fish it. I've fished in 2,200 feet.
Wow. So where you find slower moving currents dictates where you're going to fish.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting. We actually talked about some of our closer to shore stuff is sometimes like during the summertime when we're red snapper fishing, you want to fish out there in 160, 180, 220, 250 foot of water, but you'll get out there in 180 foot and the current's screaming. But then you'll push out there to 220 or 240, and all of a sudden the current slacks up.
Yeah.
It's not always true that the deeper you go, the higher the current goes,
No.
right?
I always look on NOAA and see where the loop current is. Loop current moves in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got good data, you can see where the eddies are, where the current is. I try to stay out of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ain't quite right.
Yeah.
And I say, uh-oh.
I might have miscalculated this, or they might have gotten the forecast wrong.
That's when you need Plan B.
Yeah, bail out quick. You don't want to get stuck in that loop current out there,
No,
deep dropping for sure.
If you get in a loop current, you're going to catch the wahoos and the other fish.
Yeah,
That's-
the pelagics.
Yeah.
And do you use like some people ask when I'm doing my live shows on Sunday nights and when I'm talking to people at seminars, like, what do you use when on the boat to find those currents? But there's not a lot of options for you actually on the boat unless you're using something like a Roth's chart or
Right.
ripcharts.com has them. Do you utilize any of that stuff on the water, or do you look at it prior to leaving?
I look at it prior. I think in the future we're going to have it where I can just tune it in on the computer.
Yeah.
So
That's
that I
right
can-
on your wind plot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool products. But looking at it prior to leaving the house through NOAA's oceanographic website.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they have that on like
And it gives you up to a 4-day. You can put it in motion in 4 days, see how it moves in and out.
Oh, nice. Through the NOAA site, how do you access that through the NOAA site, or is it just a
Ocean
bookmark?
prediction currents.
Ocean prediction currents. That's what you Google.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And it's hard to find. You got to find the right drop down. But once you find it, I put it in my favorites because I have a hard time sometimes. And now I've got it on my favorites on my phone, so I can pick it up right away.
All right. After the show airs, guys, we're going to grab that out of his phone. That sounds like a good one to share with you guys. And I've always looked at it through spaghettymodels.com. That's kind of my weather go-to site. And we try to build all our links out on hubbardsmarina.com under fishing trips. We have the weather links page that we have all the marine weather data buoys and wind finder and the NOAA buoy forecasts. But nothing about currents. That's an interesting one to be added there to kind of do your homework prior to going.
Yeah.
And does it give you the coordinates so you're able to pre-plan your coordinates around those areas?
Pretty close.
Yeah,
I mean,
general ideas.
Yeah, general idea.
Yeah, it makes it tricky. I mean, something live on the water like the Roth's chart's kind of the best way to go
Yeah,
if you want that.
that's the best way.
But it's pricey.
Yes. But, you know, if we're going to do trips that I'm talking about doing that I'm hoping I'm doing the next couple of years, I'm going to have it.
Yeah, 7-day tuna trips to the rigs.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It will be.
Well, we will be right back with a short segment before the end of the show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us on the WFLA News Radio Real Animals Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Till we spin round and round, work so hard.
And, you know, that's the thing that we're going to have to work on and build up the customers. You know, I've got a lot of customers that want to do it.
Yeah.
But I got to have repeat customers. And I've got some that go to San Diego and stuff that are going to do it with me. And they got some friends and, you know, they'll get the people to do it.
My dad's always wanted to do that. And we've looked at a boat and even went through building a boat out to do that. But it's just that clientele is so few and far between. But You guys definitely have it built up there
We got
more
a
than
lot
we
of
do.
people that want to do it.
Yeah.
And
We are more blue collar, average angler / just making it more affordable for the family, and we don't have those hardcore traveling fishermen that are paying $1,400. I mean, a 7-day tuna trip, that's going to be a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 trip.
Yeah, it's going to be somewhere around $3,000.
It's pricey.
We don't know what the fuel burn is going to be yet on the new boat. She's triple screw.
Oh wow! Are you building one, or you having one rebuilt?
Rebuilt.
Rebuilt.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
She
talking
is
about a
a
new one
tank.
too. Yeah.
That boat, it was built, I think, in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
You go down, it's aluminum, you go down inside, the hull is still shiny, just like it. There's no pitting, no nothing.
Wow.
I wouldn't think the boat was that old.
Wow.
You know, by looking down in the holes and
Is that always been up in the Northeast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no. I mean,
Cold water.
Yeah, but it was originally built in Louisiana somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was built for some kind of oil work. Boy, it's a tank.
That's awesome.
It's strong built. She's gonna be high out of the water.
That's cool.
They bought it cheap, but they're gonna have a lot of money in it when they're done.
Is that the Big E?
Huh?
The triple screw, is that the Big E boat that was sitting in Louisiana? Or is this one they've owned for a while?
No, they just bought this. They got it from up north. It was up north fishing, and they bought it cheap.
Interesting.
And then had 3 1271s in it. Now it's got a 60 series in the center and 2 12s, and they're going to take the 2 12s out next year or the year after and put 60 series in it.
360s.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a nice boat.
They have the other 2 engines. They just can't get the parts to rebuild it. So.
Dude, nightmare right now getting parts.
And she's got 220 kW generators. And
wow.
So.
That's awesome. There we go. News Radio WFLA Real Animals Radio Show. We are back with our last short segment of the morning. Don't forget, guys, if you need a new roof or roof repair, check out our friends at Affordable Roofing Systems. They understand that your roof is a large investment and protects most everything you own. Let Affordable Roofing Systems' 3 decades of experience and roofing knowledge guide you through this important process. Whether you need a shingle, metal, tile, or flat roof, Affordable Roofing Systems is your safest choice for roof repairs and replacements. Affordable Roofing Systems is defined by integrity, respect, honesty, and has a personalized and professional approach to doing business. Call Affordable Roofing Systems today at 1-888-397-ROOF for your free estimate, or visit their website at affordableroofingflorida.com. Yeah, well, we talked a lot about what to eat. Now I'm hungry for some of those deep water fish. Hopefully this weather this week will finally relent, and we've mentioned it early in the show. We've got those mackerel and kingfish coming up, getting better and better. Hopefully this front will bring them closer to shore. We finally got that red tide to relent a little bit. Saw some really positive forecasts on that. So
that's good.
Yeah, finally. So red tide's getting away from our area. It's been out of the bay for a while now, and it's been kind of heavy in spotty areas along our beaches, but finally starting to relent even there. So things are looking up water quality-wise, and that will hopefully bring those kingfish and mackerel back to the beaches. We've got the hogfish picking up. Hopefully those gag grouper will start inching inshore as that water temperature cools.
They dropped into the 70s. They'll be moving in.
Yeah, that cold front brings those female gags into those shallow water areas. They fatten up before their big move to their spawning aggregation sites for the spring, where they get together and proliferate the species. So we see a lot of those big female gags on the move once that water temperature cools off, and the bite gets overall just more aggressive as these barrages of cold fronts set into our area. So hopefully we'll see that start picking up too. And besides that, what else do we got going on offshore to look forward to? Just timing your trip around them fronts.
Around the fronts, that's it.
It makes it easier, in my opinion, to kind of pick your days because you know, hey, the bad weather, and then you know when the weather's supposed to calm down, and just got to time it right and have that flexibility, right?
That's it. You got to have the flexibility, and that's hard to do with what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people just can't take off when we got the opening, but it'd be nice.
It would be nice if you had that flexibility from all sides.
Yeah.
But inshore, as far as inshore fishing goes, what you guys want to focus on as those temperatures drop are the sheep's head. Sheep's head fishing has really started to pick up. We've seen that around Tampa Bay already. Those bridges, docks, piers, jetties starting to get more and more of those prolific and aggressive sheep's head showing up. Lighter tackle, 15, 20-pound test, 1/0 hook, minimal weight, small chunk of clam or oyster or fiddler crab or even a small piece of shrimp. And then
barnacles work good too.
There you go. All right. So you do inshore fish.
Oh, yeah.
We finally got it out of them. We're last seconds of the show. So all right. You do fish shallower than 400 foot.
Yes.
All right. What about sheep's head? So you're a barnacle user, huh?
Yes.
I like fishing with barnacles, and it's a little bit more tricky though. You got it because they crush that barnacle and it's gone quick.
Yeah. Well, that fiddler crab same way. If you feel him, you're almost too late.
Yeah, you gotta almost sense the bite coming.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's why that minimal weight works. I always equate it. It's similar to hog fishing when you're fishing for hogfish and 30, 40, 50, 60 foot of water near shore with those live shrimp and a light tackle. You have to be on top of it and really feel for that bite. And it's similar to that when you're fishing sheep's head, just in shallower water.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The skill transfers.
It does. I mean, that's one of the trickiest fish to catch.
Yeah, and catching them consistently and often is definitely a little bit more tricky. You can get away from it a little bit fishing those edges with the circle hooks and the live shrimp. If you get those aggressive sheep's head, especially behind the front when this water's milky, the bite gets a little easier, in my opinion.
It does.
They're not as hook shy and leader shy when the water's chocolate milk colored.
They'll come up when they're spawning in the spring in the bay.
Mm-hmm.
You'll catch one, and the other one's right behind him. I've caught one and dipped up the other one with it.
Oh, sheep's head fishing?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And we see them sometimes near shore when they get spawning real heavily.
In the bay, right around Port Manatee. I've seen them like that.
On those little rock piles coming in and out of Port Manatee?
Yeah.
Yeah, sheep's head spawning time is always a good time to target them. They're a good eating fish, too. It's a lot like a triggerfish, hard to fillet, but good eating.
Yeah.
Bony.
They're better than most people think they are.
Yeah, a lot of people will pass up a sheep's head trying to hunt for those snook, redfish, and trout. I don't know. Sheep's head's good eating.
Yes, they are. I like eating a redfish every now and then, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, redfish is great eating. It's one of them things. A lot of people have strong opinions about keeping fish or not keeping fish, but every now and again, I would say it's all right. But it's definitely been stressed in our area, but we've seen those redfish populations really boom August into early October. We had a great redfish bite around. It slowed a little bit, but there's still a lot of redfish around early mornings.
They're still catching a few on South Shore.
Oh,
Some of my friends are doing good out there.
Nice. There's still schools of them moving around through the night around dock lights, bridge lights. Good time to target them. But unfortunately, we're running out of time. Hopefully, you guys will join us next week for another episode of the Real Animals Saturday Morning Radio Show on News Radio 970. We've got 620 WDAE tomorrow, another episode of the Real Animals Sunday Show. Thank you, Captain Rob, for all you do on the other side of the glass, and appreciate you joining us this morning, Captain Jerry.
Well, thank you for having me.
We'll see you guys next week. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy.
Got 3 kids, got a wife, and I have to say he's got it.
I just don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I have a nice little boat.
There you go. What kind of inshore boat do you have?
I have a Key Largo.
Oh, that's a nice boat.
With a 90 horse. And
you live on the South Shore?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a haul for you, all the way up to where you work.
Yeah. Hey, to go fishing, I'll do anything. You know, it's just the way it is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, want to say thank you all for watching on Facebook this morning and for joining us on our live Facebook feed. Thank you for tuning in and spending your Saturday mornings. Hopefully you enjoyed the show and the conversation. Next week, we are working on having Andy Strelchek. That is the new regional administrator for National Marine Fisheries Service right here in studio with us next week. So hopefully you can join us for another episode where we're going to be chatting all about fisheries management and fisheries regulations with Andy Strelchek, and he's a knowledgeable cat, and so we should have a great conversation. Hopefully, if you're not fishing, you'll call in. That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
To ask the man with the plan the questions direct. So we're excited about that. Hopefully, we'll see you guys out in the water this week. The weather, like I said, looks good. Once we get into Monday, probably near shore Monday is still going to be a little slow. Tuesday, near shore fishing should be picking up once that starts calming down and clearing up. Offshore fishing Sunday. If you can get out there on a big enough boat, we're going to be heading out on our 39-hour trip Sunday afternoon and capitalizing on that post-front bite and hopefully catching a bunch of them, right?
Yep, that's for sure. I've got one Wednesday, so.
There you go. Well, hopefully you catch them up too and capitalize on that.
That's going to be the last of the red snapper.
Yep. Red snapper season closes for federal for hire end of day November 5th. Got to be back to the dock by midnight with those red snapper, and this is the last week for them. So glad we got a little reprieve.
I was thinking we got those last few.
Yeah.
We had a rough summer.
It's been a rough summer. It's been a rough little extension to the red snapper season too. It's been crazy. We haven't had a busy hurricane year, which is a positive thing. Looks like we've got La Nina set up, so we should have a more moderate winter. So
I'm looking forward to that. We might get a little bit more offshore.
Yeah. Moderate winters are good for offshore fishing, but it sets us up for a more active hurricane season next year.
I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, so give and take, guys. We'll see you next week. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Thanks for watching, y'all.